we speak. Hi, this is David Thornburg. I'm President and CEO of the Committee of 70, and welcome to Studio C70, which is our communications platform to invite folks into a conversation about how we can strengthen and improve our local democracy. We have an election coming up, a primary election coming up on June 2nd, and as part of that, we are doing interviews with candidates from all across the state, but particularly here in southeastern Pennsylvania, to make sure that all voters have a chance to hear from candidates that they should consider for that they will consider for the primary election. So joining me today is Rob Jordan. Rob, welcome.
Thank you, David. Great to be here.
Rob is a candidate for Congress in Delaware County in the 6th Congressional District.
Fifth.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. You would know that better than I would. The 5th Congressional District, and we're delighted to have him and to spend a few minutes with him talking about his background and his vision and why he wants to represent the people of the 5th Congressional District in Congress. So, Rob, let's start with kind of a warm-up question, which is this is a very challenging time to be running for office, given the COVID-19 situation. So I'm just curious how you have adapted, how you've pivoted, how you've sort of figure out how to run for office when you can't knock doors, when you can't put rallies together. How's it working for you?
It's been very interesting, David. Again, this is not a natural year. This is an event that's a once in a lifetime, we hope, event that we all have to live through. And I found a lot of virtual meetings like this have been helpful. So we've had a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of internet remote meetings, of course, going on, a lot of email communication, and a lot of phone. The other thing that's been interesting is I've been able to work from home during this pandemic. So in my position, I've been in the healthcare field for years. We are intimately affected by COVID-19. So I'm able to draw on some of that expertise from my business career and help people in the community, and a lot of questions that have come up as a result of COVID-19.
Yeah, that leads me naturally into my next question, which is beyond running for office, in what little time you might have between running for office and doing your job, I'm just curious how you have served your community in this crisis time, kinds of things that you might have done to look after your neighbors or other folks in their community that are going through tough times.
Sure. Well, I'm very, very connected to my family. So I've spent a lot of time on the phone and communications with my family throughout the area. I think it's integral and key upon us to keep in touch with our senior citizens in the family or people that are remote, make sure that they're connected in this trying time. I also have reached out to help people in the community. Like there was a local supermarket that my grandmother frequented in Delaware County. I bought lunch, I brought in pizzas to the manager, and we were able to give a meal to the frontline workers who do such a great job. And I know in this area, the Acme is so profound and so often used. It was a great feeling for me to visit that place and know that I'm doing a little bit to help the community.
Good for you. There's a great flowering of those kind of small acts of kindness and community, and I know it makes a big difference. So let's get down to the matter at hand. You're running for Congress. And I'm curious, there are lots of ways to be a member of Congress. You can be sort of a policy sort. You can do constituent services. You can get involved in tax and spend issues. What's your vision of the job, and what is it about your background, your experience, your upbringing that you think prepares you to do that job well?
Sure. That's a great question. And a lot of my points, again, can be found on robjordanforcongress.com. So if people go to the website, they'll find it. But as far as I'm concerned, my background is as an economics major at Villanova University. I had a very keen financial instinct from early on. So I'm big on the tax cuts. I'd like to see them be made permanent, the 2017 tax cuts, and enhance them. We still have room to enhance those tax advantages for lower income people and middle income people. And especially at a time like this, the next few years are going to be so tough. I think that's critical. So finance and economics is something that drives me profoundly. And also that means improving our jobs base in the district. I mean, we go from the waterfront on the Delaware River, the Navy Yard, all the way up to the main line. So there's a lot of things that can be done to bring some of these companies back to our country from foreign countries. And maybe we wouldn't be in the pickle we're in with some of these situations like vis-a-vis China and others.
Mhm. So just play that out a little bit more. If you were a member of Congress, what sort of specific priorities or pieces of legislation? I mean, you mentioned the tax cuts, but what other things? Where would you, the notion of being a member of a legislature is you've got to find common ground with at least members of your own party, and we hope sometimes members of the other party or independents. So talk a little bit about how you'd anticipate working effectively as a member of Congress.
Sure. I totally believe in reaching across the aisle and working with people of other persuasions and other parties. I spent myself several years being a Democrat. So I was a Republican in college and after college, and then several years as a Democrat, and now returned to the Republican fold the last 10 or 12 years. So I have that cross spectrum of beliefs and working with people from various parties. But I also think in regards to the business and economic climate, we need to dredge the river. We need to, again, expand the tax cuts and advantages for companies to resource here. And that's going to mean working with people across the aisle to get those things accomplished and get those advantages and bills passed.
Yeah. I know you're a longtime resident of Delaware County, been active in your community. Just thinking back, I know at least in the last couple rounds, Delaware County was a little sliced and diced in the congressional districts, but I'm thinking back to previous members who have represented Delaware County. Anyone in particular stand out as maybe a role model, as someone you'd like to emulate?
That's a great question, David. And, I go way back to your father's time as well and enjoyed, supporting him. But when I was first growing up, Bob Edgar was a keen person in Delaware County and a great role model as a Democrat to do the right thing and strong ethics and strong integrity. So I always keep him in the back of my mind. But when I was in high school and college, I went door to door and supported Kurt Weldon. And I actually went down to DC for his inauguration and got to know Kurt really well. And he also was a role model in my mind because he was able to represent the working man from the riverfront, from Marcus Hook, all the way up to the communities on the main line, and advance the whole community with the things he put forward. And he was big on foreign policy, and I think foreign policy is going to be key in the coming years as the world struggles to recover from this pandemic.
Yeah. Well, we're not here primarily to talk about politics, but can't help but note that you've seen Delaware County change quite a bit politically for the first time in seemingly forever. The row offices in Delaware County are held by Democrats. I think the registration edge is tipped Democrat. So,
Right.
but I'm interested that you have you've been on both sides of the aisle yourself. So, curious what you think the temper of the electorate is right now in Delaware County. What are they looking for in terms of their political makeup, and how does that work for you?
Sure. I think a lot of outside money came into the district in recent years to help tip that. And also, as we mentioned, a little bit of gerrymandering where we have a slice of South Philadelphia, which I love to have, and I love the people there. But that has changed the whole mix of the electorate. And I still think it's a fairly conservative electorate overall. So I believe that we're going to be able to show them that the economy is key, that we have to reach across the aisle. We had a party now that controls the House that has not worked with the president. And if we had people that would work with the president, I think we could have achieved more in the last 2 years, kept our eyes focused on things in Asia and elsewhere where we dropped the ball because we just had such animosity and such headbutting the recent 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer that we don't spend enough time when we consider candidates and thinking about their background, their experience, their upbringing, their family. What can you tell us about all of that in your life that is meaningful and that again prepares you to be a strong and effective member of Congress? Your professional background as well.
Great. I'm a true child of Delaware County. So my parents are from Upper Darby and Seacane and born and raised in Marple Township. My father was president of the Board of Commissioners of Marple Township for many years. And I was a committee man in Marple Township coming out of college. So a lot of political input from way back. We worked to prevent the closing of our local elementary school, which I attended, Loomis, which was prescient because now we needed that in coming years after there was a bit of a baby boom. My father was also key on making sure the Blue Route was developed in the best capacity. If you remember that drama, my father pushed for 3 lanes and 3 lanes, which I support. And of course, half of it is 2 lane. So I've been involved since the 80s on many issues in the county and in Philadelphia as well. I think we need again to dredge that river further, to increase the riverfront development, and to expand the airport. So a lot of things are happening in the 5th that will help our whole region. And I'm up against an opponent in the fall who's voted with Nancy Pelosi 99% of the time. So I don't think that's going to go down well with the voters of the 5th district, and that's going to be a pillar of my campaign.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you've been active in your community in lots of different ways, politics and otherwise, but what is it about the spring of 2020 or the fall of 2019 that convinced you that this was a good time to put your own hat in the ring, as it were?
The whole impeachment drama really fueled me, and I felt like that was months and months of effort, years of effort, that was really for naught. It was just all political show, and it angered me so much, and it just raised my ire that I felt like I should, I need to put my hat in the ring and try to make a statement and try to turn this around. And I really think we took our eye off the ball so much with Asia because of impeachment. Maybe the current situation wouldn't have been as severe if we were more focused on foreign issues, security issues, border issues, and not so much on impeachment. So really the impeachment drama of 2019 is what got me to throw my hat in the ring.
Okay. Well, now let's fast forward a little bit. Let's assume the waters part and you're elected member of Congress, and you would take office in I guess January of 2021, and then you are faced with a continuing series of policy proposals and bills that you're asked to support or not support. So once you got there, are there a set of policies or proposals that you would never support under any circumstances, no matter what? And on the flip side, are there a set of proposals that you would always support, that that the leadership could count on as a rock solid yes in support of that? So never and always.
Sure. On the never side, I would never support Medicare for all. My experience working for my employer for years has shown me that our healthcare system is not perfect, but it's helped a lot of people. It's worked well for many years, and we have tourists and medical tourists coming here from all over the world that come here for care. So I'd like to see us tweak our current system, to make it better, to make sure access is there for all. But I don't see Medicare for all. I don't see me being in favor of that at any time. So that would definitely be a never. And never, again, also to take away civil rights. So I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I wouldn't want to see those rights curtailed. I want to see us adhere as close to the Constitution as possible. So I'm a conservative Constitution believer in that regard. I would, again, be always for proposals and ideas that would stimulate economic activity, that would bring new companies here, that would allow companies to innovate and grow in this area. We have some real burdens in our area. If we would address them, that would help us to turn around the situation and make a brighter future for our young people. And also to improve the education process. We have a lot of challenges in our district, in our region with education, and I'm all for more funding for those schools and for improving, the odds for every student to get a great education. That's the way forward for everybody, education. So I'm always for those pro-education deals.
Mm-hmm. I happened to be at an event a few months ago and sat down next to your opponent in the fall, and said to her that I'm sure she had no inkling that when she was elected, that one of the things that would pop up on her screen was the situation with Philadelphia Energy, the gas works.
Yes. Yeah, PES.
Down there. I'm curious, since that is, a lot of things loomed large before COVID-19, and that was one of them. And it's a tough issue to think through. And I'm curious if you have any particular angle on what ought to happen there, and who ought to get involved, and who ought to shoulder the costs, and what have you.
Sure. The PES situation was sad. I disagree with the Congresswoman when she says that she thought it was lightning or something that caused it to happen on purpose. I think it was truly an accident. But I do believe that whole region should be kept industrial. To remediate the soil and to make it livable as a residential area is very prohibitive. So I would like to see that stay an industrial zone. I think that whole triangle near the airport, near the highways, near the refineries has to stay industrial as we move forward in some capacity. Hopefully a cleaner fuel or a different type of situation for the local residents, but still it's an industrial zone. So I don't believe it's ever going to become a residential area myself, and I don't think I would support that.
Yeah. So I just mentioned it, but it's not lost on anyone that this COVID-19 situation has fundamentally altered the agenda, not only changed the way in which you run for office, but just sort of, again, thinking ahead, enormous financial and economic questions for the country and for the district, also fiscal questions about how we pay for the kind of relief that we need. But what in your head, what is it about the COVID-19 and the way out of that that's going to change the agenda in Washington, and what part of that would you really like to dig into?
I think as far as public health care policy goes, I believe we've addressed the severe nature of the crisis adequately as a country. And now we're addressing the financial needs to get people back on their feet. But I do believe, and I agree with you, that we now have to come up with ways when these things happen in the future, we'll probably will have epidemics in the future like this, where we are more prepared to work remotely, to have precautions in place, and also supply chains to make sure that we can manufacture supplies, PPE, and vaccines here in the States again. And we're well primed for that in the 5th because we have such a great industrial zone in the South there and in South Philadelphia. But we need to be prepared to work more remote going forward. I do feel sorrow for the stadiums. I love to go to our stadiums that we've all been born and bred with. I just have a feeling that some of these things are going to be curtailed in the future. You're not going to see really large crowds in the near future able to come together for concerts or sports events. And that's something we have to come to terms with and find a way around in the short term.
Yeah.
But again, I think the opportunity is to make sure that our supply chains are improved so that we can handle these situations faster in the future. And that will mean more jobs and more security and more stability here.
Yeah. Well, you know as well as I do that Philadelphians are pretty scrappy. So I think we'll figure out a way to enjoy sports one way or the other. It might not be exactly what we had in the past, but
Right.
well, let's put a wrap on the conversation there. Let me just say, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to address for a minute or two?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to meet you and to get some of my ideas across. Again, robjordanforcongress.com is our website, and we have a Facebook page if anyone has any questions. And if they'd like to donate to my cause, we accept all donations as we enter a very expensive period here in the campaign.
Somebody's got to pay the Zoom bills, right?
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, Rob Jordan, candidate for Congress in the Pennsylvania 5th District in Delaware County. This again is David Thornburg. I am superimposed in front of our company vehicle, if you will, the Volkswagen. Take that as a reminder that we've got a primary coming up on June 2nd. A couple of key dates to keep in mind: that May 18th is the last day that you can register to vote in Pennsylvania. May 26th is the last day that you can apply for a mail-in ballot. And we're strongly encouraging folks to take advantage of that new option here in Pennsylvania. It's good for you, and it's good for us. It's good for the folks that work at the polls. So please consider that. Also encourage you to take advantage of the resources that the Committee of 70 makes available to voters. You can find everything you need to learn about the races and the candidates and how to vote at wevote.70.org. So wevote.70.org. I would normally say we'll see you at the polls, but I'll just say that we'll be with you on June 2nd when you're casting your ballot one way or the other. And again, we're here to help in any way we can. So thanks again, Rob Jordan, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, David. Thank you for everything you do to help civic engagement. We appreciate it.
Thank you.